I'm Tracy.
The tension in the conference room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Our vice president, Victoria, slammed her hand down on the glass table, and the sudden noise made me jump. All 80 employees in the room sat motionless under the harsh fluorescent lights. Even the usual fidgeters were still, and every breath seemed to echo in the silence. "Stand up right now and apologize to my daughter for your incompetence, or clear out your desk," Victoria announced, her voice booming through the main hall of our company. Her daughter, Amelia, who had been hired 6 months ago and mysteriously promoted to senior manager last week, sat beside the executive team, a smug smile playing on her lips. My heart started pounding in my chest as all eyes turned towards me. I slowly got up from my chair, the metal legs scraping against the floor, making an ear-piercing sound in the quiet room. The walk to the front felt like an eternity, each step like a ticking time bomb on my career. Victoria's smile widened, thinking she had me cornered. She thought I'd rather face public humiliation than lose the job I'd worked at for 15 years. Little did she know me. I connected my personal device to the display system. The projector hummed to life, and I said, in a quiet but clear voice, "I believe this will clarify the situation." Victoria's smile disappeared when I didn't immediately start apologizing. Instead, I tapped the screen, and Amelia's voice filled the room. "Mom, I totally messed up the Harrington presentation. I mixed up their financial assessment with our internal projections. But don't worry, I told everyone it was all her fault." Then came Victoria's unmistakable voice. "Perfect, darling. Keep blaming her for everything. Once this merger goes through, we'll restructure the entire department anyway. Just hold on until our bonus is secure." Shocked gasps spread through the room. Victoria lunged towards me, her high heels digging into the carpet. "That's private. Turn that off immediately," she shouted, reaching for my device. Ben, our CEO, held up his hand. "Continue," he said, his expression hardening. I nodded and played the next recording. "Just delete her slides before the investor meeting," Victoria instructed. "Say there was a technical issue. We need the board to see only your version of the proposal." "But what if someone asks questions I can't answer?" Amelia whined. "Then you look at her and say, perhaps you can explain why your data didn't support this conclusion." Make her look unprepared. With each new recording, Victoria's face lost color. Amelia sank lower in her seat, no longer smirking, but staring at her trembling hands. Ben stood up slowly. "How long has this been going on?" I looked him straight in the eye. "Since Amelia was hired, I've kept dated copies of my original reports alongside the altered versions she submitted under her name. And this isn't just my department. I've talked to 3 former employees who went through similar treatment before being pushed out." The room was completely silent as I disconnected my device and returned to my seat. Victoria stood frozen at the front, her mouth opening and closing without making a sound. But I knew this was far from over. The real battle was just beginning. Let me take you back to how this whole nightmare started. I was once the rising star of our analytics department. I'd spent 15 years building my reputation through hard work and innovative strategies. My colleagues respected me, upper management consulted me, and clients specifically requested me for their projects. Then Victoria hired her daughter. I remember Amelia's first day like it was yesterday. She showed up in a designer outfit, announcing that she'd graduated from an elite university with honors. Later, I found out she'd barely passed and had been on academic probation twice. 3 days after Amelia started, during a department meeting, Victoria said, "Tracy, you'll be mentoring Amelia. Show her everything you know." I noticed my colleagues exchanging looks. We all knew what mentoring the boss's daughter meant, babysitting an entitled newbie while still doing my full-time job. That afternoon, Amelia sat next to my desk, scrolling through her phone as I explained our data analysis processes. "This is so boring," she sighed after 10 minutes. "Can't you just give me the summary?" "Understanding the methodology is important," I explained. "Otherwise, what? My mom runs this department. I don't need to understand every little detail." I should have seen the warning signs, but I still believed in hard work and that the system would reward competence. How naive I was. The first project I gave Amelia was simple: compile customer feedback data for our quarterly review. I gave her a template, clear instructions, and my direct contact information if she had any questions. 3 days later, at the department review, Amelia presented a completely different analysis from what I'd asked for. The data was superficial, missing key metrics, and several conclusions contradicted our previous findings. When Ben asked about the discrepancies, Amelia turned to me with wide eyes. "Tracy told me to do it this way." I was just following her instructions. I felt every eye in the room on me. "That's not correct," I said carefully. "The instructions I provided." "Are you calling my daughter a liar?" Victoria interrupted, her voice dangerously calm. The meeting continued with me trying to salvage the presentation and defend my reputation at the same time. After the meeting, Victoria pulled me into her office. "If you can't work effectively with Amelia, perhaps we need to re-evaluate your position," she said, examining her nails. "She's new and learning. You're supposed to be experienced. Any failures reflect more poorly on you than her." That was just the beginning. Over the next few months, Amelia took credit for my successful work and blamed me for her mistakes. Reports I prepared were mysteriously altered before reaching upper management. Client emails I sent were intercepted and changed. My performance reviews dropped like a rock. Colleagues who used to seek my advice started avoiding me in the hallways. 15 years of building my career was falling apart right in front of my eyes. The breaking point came during preparations for the Harrington merger, the biggest deal our company had pursued in a decade. I spent weeks analyzing market conditions, preparing financial projections, and creating a detailed integration strategy. Amelia did nothing but complain about the long hours. The night before our presentation to the board, I stayed late to finalize my slides. The office was almost empty when I heard voices from the break room. "Mom, I'm worried about tomorrow. Tracy's analysis is really detailed. What if they ask me questions about it?" I froze outside the door. "Don't worry, darling," Victoria replied. "I've already talked to Ben about your concerns regarding Tracy's work. I suggested you present an alternative analysis, and I'll help you create it tonight. We'll let the board decide which approach is better. But her data is solid." I checked. Data can be interpreted in many ways. We'll just make hers seem unnecessarily alarmist. Trust me, by this time next month, you'll be leading that department and Tracy will be gone. I backed away silently, my mind racing. Everything suddenly made sense. The altered reports, the missing emails, the rumors spread about me. This wasn't incompetence, it was sabotage. That night, I made a decision. I would protect myself by documenting everything. I started keeping my device close during meetings and saving every version of my work with digital timestamps. It wasn't about revenge, it was about survival. The next day, I watched in silent anger as Amelia presented her alternative analysis to the board. It was almost an exact copy of my work from 3 months earlier, but with the risk factors minimized and the profit projections inflated. "I'm concerned about the analysis Tracy prepared," she said, giving the board members a concerned look. "It's unnecessarily pessimistic and could jeopardize this merger." I waited for someone to recognize my work, but no one did, or, if they did, they kept quiet. After the meeting, Ben called me into his office. "Tracy, I'm concerned about your recent work. Amelia's analysis seems much more in line with our goals." "Sir, the analysis she presented was based on outdated information," I said. "Are you suggesting you understand the market better than our senior manager?" He interrupted, nodding towards Amelia's new title on the organization chart. I stared at him, speechless. Senior manager? Amelia had been with the company for less than 6 months and had contributed nothing of value. "No, sir," I finally managed to say. "I'll review my approach." Over the next 2 weeks, I methodically gathered evidence. I retrieved original emails from server backups, compared document versions with their altered counterparts, recorded conversations when it was legal to do so, and reached out to former employees who had left under similar circumstances. What I discovered was worse than I'd imagined. This wasn't just about Amelia. Victoria had been systematically pushing out talented employees who might threaten her position or who refused to play along with her schemes. She had built a network of loyalty through fear and favoritism, not respect. Then came the week of the all-staff meeting. The Harrington deal was moving forward based on Amelia's flawed analysis, and problems were starting to emerge, just as I'd predicted in my original report. Instead of acknowledging these issues, Victoria decided to find a scapegoat, me. The morning before the all-staff meeting, she cornered me in the elevator. "Tomorrow's meeting won't be pleasant for you," she said with a tight smile. "But if you publicly apologize for your mistakes and acknowledge Amelia's superior work, I might consider keeping you in a reduced capacity." I looked her straight in the eyes. "And if I don't, then empty your desk before you leave today. It's your choice." The elevator doors opened, and she stepped out, confident in her victory. She had no idea what was coming. That night, I couldn't sleep. My career, my reputation, my future, everything I'd worked for was on the line. Was I really ready to risk it all? As dawn broke, I made the call that would change everything. "Hello," a groggy voice answered. "Penny, it's Tracy. I'm sorry to call so early, but I need your help." Penny had been our largest investor for years, though she rarely attended company functions. I'd worked directly with her on several projects before Victoria took over the department. "Tracy, is everything okay?" "No," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "And I need to show you why." We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe 3 blocks from the office. I arrived early, my laptop and files neatly arranged on the table. When Penny walked in, I hardly recognized her. Gone was the laid-back investor who preferred to work behind the scenes. This woman moved with purpose, her eyes sharp and assessing. "You have 15 minutes, she said, sliding into the booth. "Use them well." I opened my laptop and played the recordings. I showed her the original reports alongside the altered versions. I explained the pattern of sabotage and the threatened careers. Penny listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes. When I finished, she closed her notebook and looked at me. "Why come to me and not Human Resources or Ben directly?" "Because HR reports to Victoria, and Ben has been ignoring concerns about her for months. You're the only person with enough influence who might actually care about what's happening." She nodded slowly. "And what do you want from me exactly?" "Attend today's all-staff meeting. See what happens, and then decide if this company is being run the way you thought when you invested in it." Penny checked her watch. "I'll make some calls. Be ready." I arrived at the office an hour before the meeting, my stomach in knots. As I walked through the lobby, I noticed unfamiliar faces in suits talking quietly with Ben in his office. The glass walls made it impossible to hear their conversation, but their serious expressions told me enough. My desk phone rang. "Tracy," Ben's voice was curt. "Come to my office now." My legs felt like lead as I walked across the floor. Everyone was watching me, and I could feel the speculation in the air. They all thought it was going to be my last day. When I entered Ben's office, he wasn't alone. 2 board members and a woman I didn't recognize were sitting with him. Penny was nowhere to be seen. "Close the door," Ben said. I did as he asked, trying to keep my breathing steady. "These are some serious accusations you've made," he said, tapping a folder on his desk. "Victoria has been with this company for 12 years. 11 years, 7 months, one of the board members corrected. And she's generated significant growth." "Yes," I agreed. "By taking credit for other people's work and getting rid of anyone who threatens her position." The unknown woman leaned forward. "I'm Dominique from legal. We've reviewed the materials you gave Miss Penny. While recordings made without consent can be a legal issue." My heart sank. I thought they were going to protect Victoria. "However," Dominique continued, "the documentation of altered reports and the testimonies from former employees show a pattern that can't be ignored."
Ben sighed heavily.
"We're in a difficult situation. The Harrington merger is based on projections that, if I understand correctly, may be fundamentally flawed." "They are," I confirmed. "But there's still time to change our approach if we act quickly." The board members looked at each other. "The all-staff meeting starts in 20 minutes. Victoria expects to publicly discipline you. After that, we were going to announce Amelia's promotion to department director." "And now?" I asked, my mouth dry. "Now we want to see how far they'll go," Ben said. "You'll attend the meeting as planned. Let Victoria make her accusations. Respond as you see fit. I realized they were using me as bait. We're giving you the opportunity to defend yourself publicly, a board member corrected. Something you've earned. As they explained the plan, I knew I was walking into a dangerous situation. If Victoria felt threatened, there was no telling what she might do or say. My evidence might not be enough. My career might end today, but at least I'd fight until the end. The main hall filled up quickly as employees came in for the mandatory all-staff meeting. I sat near the back, ignoring the whispers and sideways glances. Amelia sat with the executive team at the front, looking confident. Victoria stood at the podium, going over her notes and occasionally scanning the room. Her eyes found mine, and she smiled. Ben opened the meeting with the usual announcements about quarterly goals and upcoming events. Then he handed the floor to Victoria. Thank you, Ben. Before we discuss department updates, there's a personnel matter we need to address. Her voice carried across the room. Over the past few months, we've had problems with the quality of work from our analytics team, specifically the work supervised by Tracy. Most recently, her flawed analysis of the Harrington opportunity almost derailed an important merger. Fortunately, our senior manager, Amelia, identified the problems and provided a corrected assessment. This pattern of undermining company initiatives can't continue. Victoria's eyes swept the room. Tracy, please stand. And there it was, the moment I'd been dreading. I slowly got up from my seat, feeling every eye on me. Accountability is a core value at this company, Victoria continued. We all make mistakes, but refusing to admit them is unacceptable. Stand up right now and apologize to my daughter for your incompetence, or clean out your desk. The silence that followed was suffocating. I took a deep breath and walked to the front of the room. My footsteps seemed unnaturally loud. Instead of going to the podium, I went to the computer station controlling the room's display system. I believe this will clarify the situation, I said, connecting my device. What happened next was exactly as I described earlier. The recordings played, Victoria got furious, and Ben intervened. But what I didn't mention before was what happened after I played the last recording. You'll never work in this industry again, Victoria shouted, completely losing her composure. Do you have any idea who my friends are? Who my husband plays golf with? You're finished. That's enough, a voice from the back interrupted. Everyone turned as Penny walked forward, accompanied by two people I recognized from the morning news, representatives from the regulatory commission that oversaw our industry. This meeting was supposed to be internal, Victoria sputtered. I invited them, Ben said coldly, after getting some concerning information yesterday. Victoria's face went pale as she realized she'd walked into a trap. She turned to Amelia, who looked equally panicked. This is a misunderstanding, Victoria insisted, her voice rising. Those recordings are taken out of context. Tracy has been underperforming for months. Ask anyone in her department. Actually, a quiet voice from the third row said, That's not true. Jordan, a junior analyst I'd barely talked to in weeks, stood up. Tracy trained me when I started. Everything I know about data integrity came from her. But 2 months ago, Victoria told me to rework Tracy's market assessment to show different conclusions. When I refused, I was taken off the Harrington team. One by one, other colleagues stood up. Each had a story. Pressure to alter data, instructions to exclude me from meetings, directives to report non-existent mistakes. Victoria looked around the room in a panic. Her carefully built empire was crumbling right in front of her eyes. Amelia, tell them. Tell them how Tracy tried to sabotage you, she said. All eyes turned to Amelia, who seemed to shrink in her chair. I just did what you told me to, Mom. The regulatory representatives stepped forward. Miss Victoria, we'd like to speak with you privately about these allegations, especially regarding the financial projections presented to shareholders. Victoria grabbed Amelia's arm. Say nothing without our lawyer present, she hissed. Then, straightening her jacket, she addressed the room with forced dignity. This is a witch hunt based on misleading evidence. The truth will come out. As they were escorted out of the hall, Ben stepped to the podium. This meeting is adjourned. Department heads, please join me in the conference room immediately. Everyone else, take an early lunch. We'll send further updates this afternoon. People left in stunned silence, looking at me as they passed. Some offered quiet words of support, while others looked away, maybe ashamed of their complicity. I stayed at the